but also the Washington African American Chamber and also Black-owned Business Excellence, and we can talk about that later. As we get started today, Jennifer gave us a lot of things to think about, but I want y'all to start thinking about financial belonging. Look around your table right now. You're in your action squads. Everybody chose the action squad that they're in. Look around the table and see who's not there. Is there anybody around this table, not around this table, that should be? And now we're going to, yes, I see some heads nodding. There's some folks that should be here. And they may not be here for several reasons. Maybe they don't feel like they belong. And that is the theme of this year, financial belonging. Being able to, thank you, Becky. I was trying to think about how to make up time since Jennifer went over, but now you're going to hold up the sign. No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. So we're going to set intentions. I'm going to give you all about 2 minutes to just write down some of the hopes and fears that you want to take away from these 2 days that we'll be together. You heard from some of the folks here what they took away from last year. We all have some hopes and fears today. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to take some time to write down your hopes and your fears for today. I feel like we just got quiet, so the 2 minutes should start. But no, we got 1 more minute. Okay, so for the next 10 minutes, you are going to talk amongst the folks in your action squad. That's the folks at your table, in case you didn't know what the action squad was. You are no longer a team, you are a squad. It took us a long time to come up with that name, too. So take about 10 minutes within your squad. Yes, define your squad for yourself, because we have a bunch of definitions. Take some time in your squad and just discuss what your hopes and fears are today, so that at the end of this forum, we can come back together and see if we've kind of met those expectations and we're setting our intentions for this forum. Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, you have about 2-3 minutes left if you want to start kind of pulling in your conversations. The opening session, I'm going to go over some logistics. Did everybody find parking okay? No. So if lot C was full, if you can go to the front registration table and you can get one of these parking permits, okay? Or an unmarked stall, okay? Also, everyone knows their action squad matches to their lanyard, okay? If you look in the center of your table, that also aligns with your action squad, okay? If you look around the outside of the room, youth is over here, and then we have all the other action squads over here, so you can still look out the windows. You will see going well, challenges, and opportunities for each action squad. You have your sticky notes that you just used. So if while people are talking, you have an idea, you want to write that down, you can write it down on your sticky note. And then after the opening session, we'll have some more directions, and eventually you'll put those sticky notes on those pads on the wall. Okay? All right, a new topic. It'll be a new topic tied to your action squad. Okay, so a moment ago we talked internally about ourselves, and then now we'll be focusing more together within our focus area for our action squads. Okay? All right. And now I'm going to turn it over to the Shari.
Thank you, Erin. Good morning, everyone. I think I know about half the people in this room. So for the rest of you, I'm Tashari Gunaratna, and I'm the community manager for JP Morgan Chase, based in Tacoma, and I lead all racial equity initiatives for Pierce County. Now, I'm here to thank all our sponsors, because without you, we wouldn't be here. But before I thank our presenting sponsor, I see you over there, I want to thank somebody who worked tirelessly to make this day possible. She works night and day and never takes credit for anything. If you ask her, she will thank the steering committee. Right, Jen Finesse? But we all know that we wouldn't be here without her. So if you could all join me in a round of applause for our fearless leader, Executive Director of the Financial Empowerment Network, Jennifer Quiros. Jennifer, where are you? Woo! In true Hollywood fashion, she's backstage. I love it. Thank you, Jennifer. We appreciate you. We love you. You made a grand entrance. Thank you so much. But back to scheduled programming. On behalf of Bank On and Jennifer, I want to thank all the sponsors for your support for the Bank On Forum. But I would like to call on Guillermo. Where did Guillermo go? Oh, here you are, Guillermo. Guillermo Sandoval from Umco Bank, for being our presenting sponsor today. Guillermo, please come on up and say a few words on behalf of UMCO.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Guillermo Sandoval, UMCO Bank in Portland. So Jennifer forgot to ask, who's from Oregon? And who's from California? Because I know Erwin's from the Bay Area. And I see Jenny over there. So I just want to say, over these 2 days, we're going to have the privilege, because it is a privilege to do this type of work, right, of exploring innovative solutions and building meaningful connections, right? Because our goal is to not only make our connections, but we're fostering that financial well-being and belonging, which is the theme of today's, or of this forum. And on behalf of the bank, I do want to extend our warmest welcome to all of you. And over these 2 days, I look forward to connecting. I don't know a lot of people in this room. I left Washington for about 6 years. I was in California, come back. So I'm reconnecting with the folks up here in the Northwest. So I look forward to networking with all of you. And as a reminder, day 2, at the end of day 2, we do have a networking session. So please use that as an opportunity to connect not only with myself, but others that you see in this room. So definitely take advantage of that networking session. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Devin. Is Devin here? All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guillermo, and once again, we thank you and UMCO Bank for your support. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my friend, Devin Stubblefield, to take over the plenary for the morning. Thank you, everyone.
right, everybody. Good day. Good day. Yes, it will be a good day. It will be. I'm excited to be here for this opening plenary session, and I am really honored to invite our distinguished panel to the stage. First up, we've got Miss Andrea Alexander from T3 Training and Northwest Asset Building Coalition. We've got Sam Johnson from DFI and Central Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And Miss Maria Sennett from Beneficial State Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome them to the stage. Right. So we're going to talk about it. I've got some questions that I'm going to pose to our panelists. But these questions also are going to be for you too. We're going to invite the room into the discussion. As our panelists get set, I just want to say, again, it's amazing to see so many of you here today for this important gathering. But I want you to think about what we've heard so far about financial belonging, fostering financial belonging. And those four words that came as part of their theme: connect, expand, strengthen, and empower. Does everyone agree that over these next 2 days, we're going to try to put all this together? Come on, yep. There you go. We're kicking off this conference with a very, very specific question. And I want you all to think deeply about this. And I'm going to call on the panel one by one to give us their answers and responses to this. But I want you to think about, what does it mean for BIPOC and marginalized communities to belong in financial services and programs? What does it mean? What does it mean for BIPOC and marginalized communities to belong in financial services and programs? 2 words, great implications. Now, when we talk about this, we understand inherently that having access to banking, having access to different services can mean the difference between a person or family that is thriving versus merely surviving. But what happens in the absence of those services? And so as we start out, my first question, and we just want to work with this financial belonging, and how can we make sure that everybody feels this? Is it just about access to banking products? Or is it about being seen? Is it about being heard? Is it about being able to walk in to any institution, anywhere, and anywhere around this state, and a person feels like that this organization, this institution can help me, or wants to help me? So, Maria, we'll start with you. Okay. What does belonging mean?
Yeah, thank you, Devin, for getting us started with the conversation. So belonging, when I was thinking about the term belonging, I think oftentimes we don't really consider financial and belonging to be paired together. For so many, historically, systemically, we haven't been accepted, we haven't been welcomed, we've been kept out of the system. So I try to think of what are the concepts of belonging, the welcoming, the acceptance, the feeling at ease that we can kind of think about in our own personal settings, but I'm sure we can all come up with some examples of belonging. And then how do we then apply that in a system, within a system that has been historically oppressive for so many communities, particularly communities of color. So I have the great privilege of working with a foundation, Beneficial State Foundation, that has a pretty innovative approach to how we kind of handle and look at business, particularly in the financial sector. We were created as a bank to do good, and belonging is really kind of one of the core principles of how we kind of look at our business. We take a lot of inspiration from kind of research and theories and different practices across sectors, and one that some of you may be familiar with is the Othering and Belonging Institute out of Berkeley with John A. Powell. So a lot of the work of the Othering and Belonging Institute asks us to really, when we talk about belonging, it asks us to commit to co-creating new structures built for everyone. So I think within the financial sector, we have a great opportunity to consider those principles of acceptance, of welcoming, and reconsider how we're creating and structuring our systems to welcome and ensure that all of our communities, particularly our communities of color, are welcome within that realm. So I have a few thoughts on how we might do that within the system, but and a few ways that we think about this, really ensuring that we build equitable financial health for all U.S. residents, as we can look to design with the communities. So there's a concept called participatory investment, so where we're kind of working within institutions and practices and investing with meaningful input, decision-making power, and our ownership, really working with our grassroots stakeholders. So Beneficial State Foundation, in partnership with Transform Finance, wrote a paper about what it might look like in the financial sector, in the banking sector. So I invite everybody to take a look at that. But there are 3 different ways that we might look at it, both direct, indirect, and then really adjacent. So there's an opportunity for all of our financial institutions to consider what our role is in the system. I know many of us may have stringent kind of guidelines, and that can impact how we engage with our communities, but there's still opportunities for us all to change, so looking within. A second one might be looking at how we might remove barriers. So looking at our historically marginalized communities and looking at a system that's really that gatekeeper, our underwriting. So how can we shift and recreate underwriting so that we have more communities that can be included? And I'm happy to talk a little bit more about a particular program that we have, Underwriting for Racial Justice. We might also look at setting universal goals with focused strategies. So again, really drawing inspiration from John A. Powell and his targeted universal practice, where we may have universal goals of affordable housing or building communities that kind of invite everybody, but we also have to acknowledge that we exist within the system. And the system means that we all have different starting points. And if we look at our universal goals but have to create targeted strategies, we might better serve and support each of our communities in getting ahead. And it's also, as we're seeing this like world of reverse discrimination coming with cases in our Supreme Court and others, where we're getting a lot of backlash, it's a way to say that we all have different starting points, we all have needs, and we can kind of also acknowledge that shared starting place, but know that each of our communities start in different points. So again, really looking to readjust kind of how we might approach that. And then one last concept I'll share before we move on is really looking maybe to the past. We've had our community banks that have been really centered in community for so many years and decades, and we've moved away from that practice. So we're seeing an increase in community development financial institutions. We're seeing more institutions becoming even nonprofit lenders. So we're looking at, being rooted in community. So how can we kind of lift and leverage the expertise of those that are directly in our community to help shape the practices in the financial sector? I think that's where I'll leave.
Yeah. Thank you, Maria. Thank you. Wow, it's a lot. And so I want us all to just think about what we just heard, and I'm going to ask another question. As we go through this, first of all, Maria, you talked about a few things. You said about being equitable, okay, which is great. And then participatory investments, removing barriers and looking to the past, where we've got some CDFIs and nonprofit lenders. But the question still remains is, why is poverty still growing? Why are the opportunity gaps getting wider versus getting smaller? So let's tackle that. Okay. Maria, did you want to comment there, or anyone else can? Okay, yep.
Those are good questions, making sure my microphone's on. I think that this is really a huge picture. It's really hard to look at the issue of financial belonging when you're working with poor folks. And I can only draw on my own personal experience with my community. I'm a Makah tribal member. My reservation is Neah, Washington. And so we've always grown up with the barriers on the reservation that has a different outlook around finances. And so really understanding what people go through and how that's formed this intergenerational poverty. For example, in Neah Bay, we really don't have a private sector. It's mostly all government and fishing and a little bit of timber. So having major businesses is really difficult to do because of the trust status on reservation lands. And so then we go back to the history of people's attitude about money and the high level of poverty that's been experienced by indigenous people because of lack of access to banks. Many of our people are unbanked. Clallam County is a banking desert. There's no banks out in that area, so that makes it really difficult. And then also, if we think about fintech, many reservations don't even have access to internet, so then doing the online banking can be a problem without that kind of knowledge. And so how do we unpack all these barriers that have been going on for generations? And we're really seeing a lot of practice, and I think the things that have given me the most hope are the innovative models that our people have brought to bear. Like we've had very successful CDFIs. That's been a successful model. It's very bureaucratic. You have to apply to the Department of Treasury, and small staff, you're always fundraising, but it's given people hope to build it together so it's theirs, and so they understand the development process on how to build a money-making and redistribution of wealth type of system. So that's been just a lot of hope. We've seen some Native American banks and credit unions that have been really successful, and new loan products that can actually help make private investments on reservations, like the 184 guaranteed HUD loan. But again, it's really hard to open those doors when you have the kind of policy barriers that we're facing. So I would say that for my generation now, those of us, I have a strong network of natives across the country that are always trying to figure this out. And so there's really a strong network of native practitioners that are taking this work on. Because of the change in the economy, I really see a lack of financial empowerment training. It was kind of like the flavor that went away for a long time, and now we're seeing it come back. I was really pleased with the work that we did, Ryan Davis and team, on getting the asset building grant built up, because how are you going to run a program if you don't have any money or staff to even run the program? So, just being able to provide direct services to get people to the table, clean up that credit. One little catastrophe in a blink of an eye can throw poor folks off. I just got in a car accident last week. What a hassle. Boom, it happened so fast. Now the tow company, the insurance, traffic report, I was rear-ended, and I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. So that's just a catastrophic event that can happen to anybody. What do you do when you don't have access to credit, or you don't have insurance, or you don't have these police? This is going to throw, this just throws somebody off. So you can put your foot back in that step of time. How do we, as practitioners in this room, build a safety net for people that they have the confidence to build up their credit and take ownership and emotional ownership of their financial situation? So those are the things we really think about. And I love the new term, trauma-informed financial literacy counseling, because that is really great for people that have been incarcerated, or African Americans, or people that have been dispossessed and pushed out of their neighborhoods or their traditional lands. It's really hard to move forward when you're at that place. How do we in this room work together to see specific results of people really moving ahead and having somewhat of a safety net? And that's the biggest thing I worry about right now. Most of our people have no savings at all, and so any kind of catastrophe would really set you back. It's all these little things that we kind of talk about and know. How do you move somebody to take action when they're emotionally exhausted and in survival mode? They're just trying to put food on their table. Oh yeah, put $100 away to put in your IRA. Well, where do you start with that? So, we have these barriers, and I'm just hoping in our takeaway that we see specific action and programs and build this room of practitioners to figure out how to measure real results. And I know a lot of us here, myself, I'm really proud to announce that we did receive the Asset Building Coalition grant. So that's really going to help us with collaborative partnerships. And it's really important. I can't do it all. My team can't do it all. We can bring people to the table in a culturally appropriate way, but we don't have the tools in our toolbox to do, everything in the financial sector. So those are kind of my thoughts, Devin.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. That's awesome, and it made me think for a moment around trauma. Poverty is traumatic. When right? People are trying to figure it out week after week, and they get the same amount, but they have this continual mental struggle around the same issue, time and time again. And so we talked about, and I'm glad you mentioned this, Andrea. You mentioned about the financial empowerment classes, and they're coming back in a lot of different communities. But here's the thing: a lot of these classes are tied to home ownership. There are some people out in our communities, they're not even thinking about buying a house right now. But if their only entry to a class would be, you got to say you want to buy a house. If that's the criteria, a lot of people will be continually be excluded, because some people are just saying, I'm just trying to figure out how to make this work from week to week. Credit scores are a little low. I need to get them up. How can I do that? And sometimes we inadvertently put pressure on people by saying it's for this particular goal. Maybe that's not their goal right now. That could be a goal in a year or 2 years, but today's goal could be, let me just breathe a little bit. Let me have a little bit of extra cash flow. So I'm going to put this out to you, the audience, because we're talking about financial belonging and getting people to say, I'm coming to your organization, I'm coming to your bank, I'm coming to your class, I'm coming to your workshop because I feel like I should be there. But what are we doing, really, to get them there outside of the asset goal? And I know we talk assets, we do, and it's great. But what about people who are just trying to make it? I'm going to open the floor. Yes. My question is, so how do we get people to feel that they belong? If you're saying I'm going to do a class, but it's not tied to home ownership, it's just saying, we care about you, community, and so let's do a class on money management. Let's do a class on credit improvement. Let's do a class on cash flow, whatever it is. But my question is, what can we do, or what are we doing to make people feel like that? We got a mic here. Go ahead. Mhm.
So I help coordinate a program where we work with low-income families for this very topic for financial literacy. And we have a criteria that doesn't really talk a lot about homeownership. And a lot of times we just assess our room and see, like, what is the common thread in that cohort? Like, if a cohort is needing help with just building their credit, we're going to spend more time talking about how to build their credit. And so I think having the dialogue and like the space and the flexibility to just make sure the people you're working with feel safe to tell you what's going on, and then us providing the tools to help them with that, not us coming in saying, well, you need a house, is the big key.
Awesome. Thank you. That's good. There's lots of hands up. We'll let the mic runner. Let's choose.
A long time ago, pre-COVID, someone once told me that you'll never find a thriving bank in a struggling community. And post-COVID, I've noticed that banks are just going away from struggling communities. So I think that for financial institutions, we really need to be representing ourselves in those communities. So teaching the financial education and being at those schools and those volunteer events and those food drives and making ourselves known so that people can approach us and trust us and know that we are part of the communities, even if our branches are not part of the communities. If that makes sense.
Yes, awesome.
So in the program that I run, it's called Family Self-Sufficiency, and really the main goal that we have walking into that program is an invitation to join, and it is completely non-judgmental. We sit down and visit with the clients 2 or 3 times before they sign up for the program, and they are aware that when they're creating their goals, they're theirs. It might be as little as accountability for making it to doctor's appointments and getting your new teeth put in so that you can go look for a job and feel confident doing so. But the other piece is they are going to be dictating their own goals throughout a 5-year period. And if they backslide or whatever, they just are very comfortable talking with us about it and getting the support that they actually want, not something that I want them to have.
Very good points.
Hi, my name's Clint Taylor. I run Your Money Matters Mentoring. It's a financial literacy program for youth and young adults. And when I wrote the curriculum, the way that I wanted to focus it on was getting young people to identify their why. Because oftentimes we jump right into the Dave Ramseys and the Susie Ormans, and a lot of us have great curriculum and programming that we do, but I had a student ask me one day, we were talking about values in class and how they value money, and he said to me, what's a value? And it was like, whoa, I never thought about that. So sometimes we're trying to see down the road where we want them to be, but it's like these steps, how we walk. So why do you believe that? Where did you get those beliefs from? Why do you think that? What are your values? And money for people is very emotional. So how do we identify our emotions with money? Really getting them to understand like what their why, and then you can kind of walk them up to, okay, well, here's a budget, and here's how you do credit, and here's how you do all that. But we usually start there, and we don't figure out like because everybody in the room comes at it from a different perspective. Like you can have the same siblings grow up in the same household together, and money doesn't mean the same thing to them, or they don't have the same understanding about money. So we need to really start like, where's their level of understanding, and then don't tell them what to understand, give them the tools to be able to kind of unpack that for themselves. And then now I understand why a budget matters. I understand why credit matters, but we jump right into that at the very beginning a lot of times, and they kind of get lost in that.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, so looks like we got understanding their trauma on the table, understanding their values on the table, understanding their whys on the table. That's awesome. Thank you. Great discussion. Who's next? Yeah, wherever the mic is.
I definitely agree with Clinton. The other thing that I would say is, I heard the lady over here talking about the banks leaving the community. Well, we need to use the trusted messengers in the community anyways, because some of them will never go into the bank. That's why we have so many folks that are unbanked still. So it's not about the bank itself. I just came from Chicago, and this church had their own credit union. They started it, and guess what? The folks in the community are now banking at that credit union at the church. So use the trusted messengers and stop trying to reinvent the wheel. There are folks in the community that are already touching the community. All you have to do is get with those folks to understand what the need is and stop trying to figure it out.
Yes, all right.
Me?
Yes.
Am I next? Great, thanks. All of the above, thank you all so much for that. Donna O'Connor, I work at HopeLink, and I will say that we do a lot of work with the immigrant and refugee population, and so language access and barrier is a huge part of what we have to overcome. So what we have found is not just providing materials in multiple languages, but connecting where people are already in community. Rather than coming in with an interpreter and sharing what I think is an important part of being a part of this financial system, it's working with folks who are already a part of that community. They feel safe, they feel connected, and lifting them through by providing those materials and saying, here you go, do what you do best, and it works a lot better than me coming in and sharing what I think is important.
That's awesome. Yes. Safety. Donna, thank you. I hear that word safety. Trusted people in the community using their voice versus the institutional voice. Awesome. Let's take one more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it. So, thank you. My name is Musa Sam. I'm with Homesite, and I'm also part of the BHI. I think what needs to be done is us here at the group to hold mainstream financial institution about what they do. Make sure that they talk the talk and also walk the walk. Because what happened is, it's just talking about sense of belonging. I'm going to make it short, but true story. I worked for a big bank for 7 years while I was in school. So I went abroad for study abroad, came back, went to a branch that I'd never been to, and for the same bank that I worked for. And as I worked out, I was just checking my balance. They asked if they could help me. I said, no, I'm okay. I can just use at that time, they had those self-serve telephone that you can just use to check your balance. Coming back from London, I did that, walk away, and 2 days later, the FBI knocked on my door. Yeah. So when I came out, they said, did you go to Bank X? It was at the University Village Bank in Seattle. So I said, yes. They said, what were you doing there? I said, I was checking my balance because I just came back from a trip abroad. They said, you were flagged because the bank was robbed 3 weeks before and you fit the description.
Wow.
So if I didn't work for a bank, I would feel that I didn't belong.
Yeah.
So just because of things like that, I mean, I don't like to talk about it, but
yeah,
we need to hold them accountable.
Yes.
And the other thing is talking about bank on, which is what we're here for, is I worked for a bank. After that big bank, I worked for a local bank. They were part of the BHI, but one of the things that I realized is some banks just get on board just to say that they're on board, but deep inside they're not. Because when we sign up those folks for the bank on Seattle, which has some perks, they cannot get charged a fee on overdraft and such. Within a few months, the bank tried to get them to go to the regular programs. And it becomes predatory. So just want to make sure that we keep them, accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very good point. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Yes. Okay.
Just real quick, I think we need to change our language. We say financial literacy as if we're dealing with people that are illiterate. Yes. We don't use the word financial education. We're educating people. The people aren't stupid.
Right.
I mean, else they wouldn't be coming to us for starters, for additional assistance. And everybody's gonna poo-poo me in the room for this one. But we need to take a couple of lessons from payday lenders. They're in all the communities. They're open 24 hours a day. And they have people that look like the community and speak some of the languages. We don't have to take, their interest rates and what they do and this and that. But, they have the people. And how did they get them? We need to take some of those lessons.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Yeah. All right. And so, Sam, we've heard a lot about the community, and let's just talk about now who are the unbanked, and what are their challenges? What's their narrative? What's going on, Sam? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a financial examiner supervisor with Department of Financial Institutions, so I have to start out by saying these are all my views, not those of DFI or the state of Washington. I see my communications director back there raising her hands, thumbs up. I'm also a board member and treasurer for the Central Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And really when we talk about what some of these systematic barriers are, and when we bring it back to belonging and what that looks like, it's in our financial institutions from every angle. If your object is to serve an underserved community, you need to be taking that community and having them present in every angle of this organization from the top down. You can have a credit union or a bank in a community with over 50% Latino population and not have a single Latino on the board of directors who are the ones calling the shots. It needs to go beyond just having tellers who are Spanish speaking or who are black to look like the community. It needs to be in the decision-making process, those people with those lived experiences being the ones to bring these ideas forward and to champion them. What we've seen is that when that happens, when you have a diverse leadership, you are not only doing the right thing, it's much beyond that now. It's the financial benefit to your organization. McKinsey did a study a few years ago about diverse leadership, and organizations with a leadership team that was ethnically diverse had a 36% outperformance rate to their peers. And I know we don't want to bring it all the way always back to money and to financial performance, but that is a reason to make sure that those people are represented on your leadership team. And it goes beyond, again, just having the people there. You want to feel welcome when you walk into a bank or a credit union. Again, more so than just seeing people who look like you, the signage should be representative of your community. If you are in a Spanish-speaking community, the signage should be in Spanish. If you are walking in and you look at somebody like me and you're in an agricultural community, I'm not going to be somebody that's welcoming, whether I'm Hispanic or not, welcoming to somebody who's just coming in from the farm because I don't look like them, I don't represent their community. And so going deeper into what does our community need to feel welcome, what does our community need to feel comfortable, and making the commitment to doing those things and trying new things. And I believe, I can't remember who said it, it's about not reinventing the wheel. There are people in your community that already know what this is. With the Central Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we have a lot of organizations trying to come into Yakima. Yakima is over 50% Latino, coming in wanting to serve the Latino community, and we're the gatekeeper. We're a trusted community partner, and we want to make sure that those people are here, those organizations are here for the right reasons. And we want to make sure that they're not going to come in so that they can say on the report that we did a training for Latinos in Yakima and then never showed up, never came back, never implemented anything that they talked about. And that's where some of these challenges come from, because they try to go around the gatekeepers. They do these events, and they get people from the community to come, and then the community doesn't trust them because they never come back. They never implement anything that was talked about. And so I think it's this holistic view for a community of financial institutions from the top down need to implement people, strategies, everything to make sure the community is welcome, and from a nonprofit and community standpoint, making sure that we are, as gatekeepers, truly being the gatekeeper and only making sure that those people and organizations who want to help and will make a difference are the ones that get to our communities.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, there it goes. And I see some hands up, but I'm going to throw 2 words out. Thank you, Sam. That was great. Trust and relationships. Okay? We got to work with that. Trust and relationships. Lynn.
Lynn Peters, Department of Financial Institutions. I'm the one who said yes. Thank you for saying it's my opinion. So to add to what Sam said, DFI is working with financial institution associations right now to try to develop the internal component of financial institutions, having people who are part of that community, who do look like the people in the community, who are a part of them, with a financial leaders work group. I have flyers on the table in the other room for that. So we're trying to, one of the things I remember Clinton saying, if I can't see myself in an organization, why would I ever work there? So we're trying to change that by having youth, 18 or older, come be a part of a training session of what it's like to work in the financial services industry, whether it's working at a bank or a credit union or working with us, whatever that aspect is, but learning the aspects of that to get the next generation to come in and be a part of that community. Flyers available at my table.
Yes, yes. So I'm going to ask our panel to, and thank you, Lynn, for adding that. But we're working with this trust thing. But how do we rebuild it once it's been broken? At what point can an institution kind of reset things with a particular community that have felt overlooked or not responded to appropriately over the years? How do we get that back? So I'm going to ask our panelists to address the trust in relationships. What are your thoughts?
It's not an overnight process, and it never will be. And it's whatever an executive or a team of leaders think that it's going to take, double it, right? They want it now, and they need to have somebody holding them accountable so that when it doesn't happen in a month or a year, that they continue down that path, because all that's going to do when they give up on that ideal of rebuilding the trust, because it took longer than 6 months or it took longer than a year, is that it's just going to break that trust down even more and make it even harder. And so when they're building out these ideas of how to rebuild trust, it's being present in the community where the community is. One of the things we do with the Hispanic Chamber, we've talked to lots of organizations in Yakima about this, is if you're going to want to, let's say as an example, to help rebuild trust with Latino business owners in Yakima who have historically been kept out of the banking system. There's nothing in their language. They come in to try to get a loan. They've had a successful business, a sole proprietorship, and they come in and they say, hey, you need a balance sheet, an income statement, a profit and loss statement, and a statement of cash flows. And they say, we don't know what that is. And they say, when you get those, bring them back. And that's it, right? How do you rebuild that trust? So you start working with, again, gatekeepers and trusted organizations in your community that can provide that education to those business owners. And you do it at times when they're available. So one of the things we saw banks doing is, okay, we'll hold a workshop for small Latino business owners at 5:30 p.m. or at 5 p.m. Well, okay, they're getting done with work. They have families. That's not, if they're a small business owner, they're still open at 5 p.m. So now you're asking them to close their business to drive to you to be able to take this training. And so we work with organizations to say, okay, we're going to hold this training at 7:30 tonight. After you're done with work, after you've gotten your kids taken care of, we're going to provide food. and we're going to come to your community. You don't have to come to us. And it's making those intentional steps to show the community that you're willing to do the work. You're not just going to put something up and ask them to come to you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good.
I'm going to riff off of what Sam is saying, is that what strategy has been successful for us is our native resource fairs, where we're bringing resources and banks and people in the financial industry to the reservation or to our urban Indian communities with the fair. Using our tradition, we always feed everybody. You can't have a meeting without food. We always use our culture. We invite a cultural performer in to set the stage with our spirituality and our prayers, and that really helps build a comfort level to build relationships between key resource providers and our native community. Again, because of the strategy this next year is just having a one-time meeting. How do we follow up on that with true action? And that's going to be our challenge going forward, I think, this year. But we're making progress on doing that. But I totally agree. It really helps to bring resources to the people, especially when you're on a rural Indian reservation. And most of the people I work with love coming out to the res. You know, it's fun. You know, we have a good time. And so I'm seeing a lot of openness to accepting our culture and coming to us where we're at. But I really appreciate Sam's point, is that we don't have folks of color, marginalized people represented on the boards where the policy and the decisions are made. Then it's going to be hard to move forward at the lower level, because you have your staff in a bank, you have your manager, he's got to meet his financial goals, but what are these other goals? How do we bring those two together? I think that's just a big question that we need to answer from maybe a system-wide standpoint, and sharing best practices.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. Maria, did you want to comment?
Yeah, just briefly, I think another opportunity, along with everything that's been said, is on the bank or the financial institution side, there's a lot of opportunity to be more transparent with our practices. So at Beneficial, we really look at kind of systems change as a whole, and being like the impact and owner of Beneficial State Bank. We have a lot of agency in kind of how we think about systems and financial institutions' role in systems. So transparency, so like we're all depositors in some, or we're likely all are striving towards supporting everyone in opening accounts, and how can the bank also support with transparent practices? So where is the money going that we're all putting into financial institutions? And so how can we disclose what percentage of, if I put a deposit of 1,000 into my savings, how are those dollars being split up? So there's more opportunity. I think the more that we can become transparent in that process, the more our communities really see how we're supporting them and can be more involved. I think a principle of belonging is agency. And we all have agency in our financial systems, or should have agency as we are the depositors. So how can we give voice to where our funds are going, and how can we shape kind of that dialogue and help co-create these futures that we want? So we focus a lot on the climate as one of the key kind of changes, and how can our banks and financial institutions disinvest from climate change. And we've been able to kind of demonstrate through case models of kind of that progress. So when we have people demanding, and when we have shareholders kind of coming together, we can create the change that we want.
Thank you. And thank you very much for all those comments on that. Thank you. But I want to go back to something, Andrea, you mentioned earlier about models and partnerships that are working, because we want to talk about, you know, what's happening, what's working, how's it going, and how can others replicate that? Yeah. Andrea, go ahead and take that.
Okay. Again, I just really want to go back to the tradition that we're seeing, where there's kind of two different markets in Indian country, the tribal council, the tribal governments that actually, many of them do have a lot of resources and have millions of dollars with healthy banking relationships with the casinos, with successful tribal enterprises. So there's this huge successful side of our community, but of course, we all know that that doesn't translate down to the tribal members because of their lack of understanding of how to work within the financial system in America right now. So those are two different pieces, but when we can get the council, the sun and the moon and the stars working together, the council, the tribal leadership, the board, the staff, the council is our hook politically to get people with money to the table. So what are those hooks and links that you can make to your community? Can you be a resource broker? And that's what really my job is, both in technology and financial resources. I'm a broker in the middle with my team, and it's only through the network that I have that I've built up over many years working in the sector. So how can we leverage those relationships, but also share, hey, man, you got to work with this guy. He is the real deal. He's really cool. You know, just sharing the resources that will really show up and are there to build long-term relationships. And when you work in Indian country, I mean, I've worked with the same people for 30 years. You know, the name of the funding source changes, right? The flavor of the year changes. But all my friends, we all are still working on this stuff, trying to figure it out in community economic development. So I'm sure your communities are like that too, that you're still working in a pretty tight network. How do you strengthen that and help leverage and bring that to the table for long-term change? And now is a really time to do it because we are seeing a trend of, after, you know, I think COVID and the disparity, there's a lot of acknowledgement on the economic disparity in America right now. So now is a really good time to really push those initiatives. How do we really fast forward and push them to see the changes that we need to make, because we're not moving past the economic disparity of the really rich and the really poor and the lack of the middle class. So I think that now's a really time for us to do that, but helping poor folks understand, again, the financial system is one step in the right direction to help the poorest of the poor, at least to get to the table. You know, that's how I feel about it right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you. And looking at our time here, we just got just a few moments left, but I do want to give opportunity. If someone has a question that you'd like to pose to anyone on the panel, this would be the time to do that. Yes. Hi.
Hi, my name is Beth, and I have a question for you, Maria, and we could take this up later if that's more appropriate, but I'm really curious about underwriting practices for racial justice, and if you could even just spend, you know, some high points, some time to cover high points, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe just briefly.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm happy to connect with you or others that have interests. For a number of years, Beneficial has been holding conversations with financial institutions and others that are in the field that acknowledge that the system's rigged. And I think that's one thing I wanted to add with the trust. And I think like reminding ourselves that the onus should never be on that individual, but rather on the system. So the more that we can incorporate that dialogue, I think the better. But really working off that premise and working within institutions of power and identifying how we can, within our own systems, make changes to how we're looking and considering loans in this case, and creating practices that might extend beyond the traditional factors, beyond credit, looking at more alternative data, extending loan terms. So we currently have a pilot of about 20 financial institutions, 6 of which operate in the Washington area, and we're, over the next couple of years, taking best practices and learnings to help shape and fully inform the conversation. And it's really building on special purpose credit programs where you're targeting, kind of using that targeted universalism principle where we're looking at specific communities, Black and Latinx, and how can we transform our systems to better qualify individuals who already meet the many that qualify already for the loans that are not being offered. So reinventing or kind of tweaking how we're analyzing so to better connect with our community members. I'm happy to say more later as well. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. This was great. Let's give our panel a hand. Good job. Awesome. Yeah. So we've got a lot to think about. Lots of ideas were put on the floor today. And for this next section of this session, we're going to do table activities. And in a moment or two, we're going to have people come around with questions. And Jennifer, if you don't mind, help me to organize what we're going to do. The questions are where? They are around. Okay, great.
All right. Wasn't that pretty powerful? I'm reading this book called The Conversation, and there's so much power in conversation, right? Just the transference of energy, emotion, and everything else. So I'm loving looking around the room at these boards. If we were having a competition, I would say that the immigrants, no, I'm just kidding. Well, there's no competition, okay? But listen up, I have a few things that I want to talk about. I know we want to continue conversations, and you will have a moment to do that in about 5 minutes. So if you can give me 5 minutes, then I'll give you your time back, okay? I know my voice is very loud. All right, so thank you all for engagement, participation, and making sure that we are really absolutely on mission with connecting, expanding, strengthening, and empowering the financial belonging. All right, so thank you all so much for that. I do want to say that lunch, I know y'all smell that lunch. Y'all smell it? I smell it. Thank you so much. I smell it. And I'm excited about lunch because it is by this young lady who I just met in the hallway with, actually, I don't know which one is it Gaia's? Okay, yes, Gaia's Homemade. I love the fact, did y'all look through this program book yet? Okay. Did y'all see the fact that this is truly diversity and equity in action? Like, I'm used to going to conferences where everybody on the page is white, okay? So I love seeing other folks on here, you know, and folks that look like me. So I'm just saying, okay? But I do want to call up, I do want to thank our sponsor, and I want to call up Ryan. Jared. Why did I say Ryan? I'm looking at you and thinking about him. Sorry, Jared. I'm going to call up Jared. Thank you, Jared.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good to see everyone here today. I see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces that I'm excited to talk with and engage with. I'm the assistant director of the Financial Empowerment Project with Workforce Snohomish. So I wanted to thank you all for coming to Snohomish County. It's a real honor to host the Bank On Forum this year. And I know we all gave an applaud earlier, but I wanted to give my appreciation to the Planning Committee. I've worked on the Planning Committee for, I don't know, the past 5 or 6 years, and this is the first year that I haven't done it in a while. It takes a tremendous amount of work to get this event together, to coordinate all the logistics and to get all the folks on the panel and moderators. So a lot of big thank you to the Planning Committee for putting this together. So today we're here at Everett Community College. This place holds special significance for me. I began working here about 7 years ago when I first was starting to do direct service in workforce development, and I worked on a program that was focused on providing services to very low-income individuals who were seeking career pathways in healthcare. Many of them single mothers, and all of them facing significant barriers to economic stability. And it really was, I learned so much about the perseverance and the challenges facing this group of people. And it really inspired me to do the work that I do now and to think really broadly about what financial empowerment means, which connects with, of course, access to financial institutions. So this place really inspired me to do the work that I do today. So as I said, I'm the lead of I lead the Snohomish County Asset Building Coalition. This year was really significant for us as well. We've been, like many asset building coalitions around the country and around this state, there's a lot of ebb and flow in terms of funding and interest and engagement in the community. And we've been very lucky this year that things are starting to come together. As it's been said here earlier today, I think we had a little dip for a couple of years where it seems like asset building and financial education was kind of on the ebb, and it seems to be flowing now. So we've gotten some investment from community partners, from local government, and we're building out our programming. We have a steering committee in this county now where we've engaged a variety leaders from different nonprofits and financial institutions to really have inclusive perspective around what services the community wants here regarding financial empowerment. We finally have a full-time staff member, salaried staff member. Shout out to Abby McCutcheon, who's not here today. She did a lot of work on the planning for this event, and she was unable to make it because she's sick. But yeah, we have a full-time staff member, salaried. I was just doing this work aside for a long time, and now we have someone who can really dedicate their time to that. And we're rebuilding our coalition, and we're super excited about that. We've developed programming helping refugees and asylees, focused on career pathways, experimenting with integrating financial coaching into those programs, financial education workshop, and coaching. And we're also working on a youth program that we just launched that has been super successful in working out the Boys and Girls Club and the WeOA youth programs, if you're familiar with either of those, and giving a really robust, holistic virtual experience for youth to engage in financial education. And they've been very receptive to it, so it's very exciting. So lots of new programming coming out and more to come. But we're really excited to be here today and to welcome you all to Snohomish County. And we hope, for those of you who haven't been here before, enjoy your time here. Thank you so much, and look forward to the conversations that will happen here today. And please come up and introduce yourselves to me. I'd love to hear more about what y'all are doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So a couple things. We want you to continue to put Post-its on the wall throughout the day. We want you to eat lunch. We want you to enjoy the lunch. We want you to continue to make connections. You have until 1:15. Before I let you go, there is a survey. There's a survey. Does everybody have the survey? It should be in your folder. So you can go ahead. We strongly encourage you throughout the day to fill out each section. And don't wait till the end, because then you probably won't do it, right? So we strongly encourage you to fill out each section as we go throughout the day. So we've already had our opening plenary. So please fill out the survey for that. At 1:15, please look at your agenda. At 1:15, you will be in a different room. You might be in this room, but some of you will be in a different room. So please take a look at the agenda while you're eating, while you're connecting, while you're doing these amazing things, and know where you're going at 1:15. All right? All right, y'all enjoy y'all's lunch and enjoy one another.